Cornyn. Let me begin with the first of what I believe are the final two questions for today's hearing. This one for Mr. Goldstein. For many Americans, the pandemic was the first time that they were really forced to think about where food comes from. There was a lot of concern that we would face food shortages or supply chain challenges. But even as toilet paper and hand sanitizer quickly disappeared from the shelves, our grocery stores were quickly restocked. And that was because farm workers continued showing up to work each and every day to feed the country. They risked, and many lost their lives for the rest of us. But even when the pandemic ends, so many farm workers will be at risk of deportation. My question is this, Mr. Goldstein: what would happen to our nation's food supply if undocumented farm workers were deported?
Well, thank you for the question, Senator. As I mentioned earlier, we depend on immigrants to produce our food in this country, and a majority of those immigrants are undocumented immigrants. And among the 2.4 million, at least half are undocumented. We are, if any significant number of them were to be deported, there would be a catastrophe. Employers often tell us that we work with a number of agricultural employers, businesses. They tell us that labor is in short supply. They need the workers coming to them and performing that work. And it's not just about producing a quantity of food. These workers are trained how to produce, harvest, how to cultivate crops in a way and treat animals in a way that's going to be profitable and safe. It cannot be easily replaced, and we're not replacing them with robots anytime soon. We need to end this whole history of a wink and a nod, where agricultural employers are allowed to hire hundreds of thousands of undocumented immigrants and take advantage of the fact that they are in a vulnerable position, and we need to give them immigration status.
Thank you very much. And I believe your response in summary is that, yes, farm workers are indeed skilled labor. Final question for Dr. Wong. You mentioned in your testimony that over 500,000 DACA and TPS holders are frontline essential workers. In fact, 29,000 DACA recipients are serving as healthcare workers. Nearly 15,000 as teachers, and more than 140,000 are working in food and agricultural industries. We know that any day now, Judge Hennon, a U.S. District Court judge in Texas, will rule on the DACA program that could have a significant impact on not only these essential workers, but the communities that they serve. In addition, several countries such as Haiti, El Salvador, Honduras, and Nepal will lose their TPS designations in October of this year unless they are redesignated. So with this as context, Dr. Wong, can you tell us more about the national impact and potential harms of removing these workers from our country, and how would we be able to move forward with our recovery without them?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, 500,000 DACA and TPS holders are essential workers. DACA and TPS provides individuals with work authorization, so taking their work authorization away would be devastating for our economy. Potentially deporting them will also cause significant harm to American families. So with respect to the economic fallout, we would lose an estimated 29,000 healthcare workers who are DACA recipients, as well as 12,700 who work in healthcare support occupations. We'd also lose 142,100 DACA recipients who are working in food and agricultural industries, as well as 14,900 DACA recipients who are teachers. Add to this the 11,600 healthcare workers who are TPS holders, the 76,100 TPS holders who work in our food supply chain, and the thousands of others who work across the broad range of other essential occupations. Now, states like California would lose over 80,000 essential workers, and Texas would lose just over 50,000 if DACA and TPS were to end. But to make even more vivid why legal status and work authorization are important, myself, along with the Center for American Progress, National Immigration Law Center, and United We Dream, have surveyed DACA recipients annually over the past several years. DACA recipients report that after receiving DACA, 63% moved to a job with a better pay, 53% moved to a job with better working conditions, 53% moved to a job that better fits their education and training, and 55% moved to a job that better fits their long-term career goals. So the ability to begin realizing their full economic potential, which includes over 90% reporting that DACA has allowed them to pursue educational opportunities they previously could not, helps explain the doubling of average hourly wages among DACA recipients, their increased spending power, as well as their increased tax contributions. So ending DACA would undo these economic gains. But beyond the economy, 3 out of every 4 DACA recipients have an immediate family member who is a US citizen. Nearly 3 out of every 10 DACA recipients has a US citizen child. Among those who are married, 6 out of 10 are married to a US citizen. Moreover, the average age that DACA recipients came to the US is 6 years old. So should DACA end and DACA recipients become subject to deportation, we would be tearing apart the families of people who have quite literally known no other country but ours as their home. And just quickly regarding TPS, myself, along with the Center for American Progress and Adhikar, conducted one of the first systematic surveys of Nepali TPS holders. If TPS for Nepal were to end, a full 83% of respondents surveyed agreed or strongly agreed that, quote, if I return to Nepal, I would be concerned about my physical safety for myself and for my family. With respondents who have US citizen children, this increased to 85%. So undoing DACA and TPS would not just undo economic gains, but it would also tear families apart and potentially send individuals back to places where their physical integrity could be threatened.
Thank you, Dr. Wong.